What's going on, guys? It's Zach here, bringing you guys another Fantasy Football video. This one I'll be doing my final mock draft of the offseason. This one will be a 10-team PPR snake draft. I'll be picking from pick 9. I've got my second to last draft tomorrow night, and that's where I'm picking from here. So I'm just sort of doing a mock there and sort of showing you guys how I'd prepare for that. And some other exciting news, on Monday we will be doing the first ever live stream on the channel. I'll be live streaming the Subscriber League draft. That should be a 12-team PPR auction draft, so should be super exciting. Should be a lot of fun to actually finally have a live draft or have a live stream. I'm happy to sort of hold a Q&A while I'm doing the draft. It'll be a lot of fun, sort of doing AMA, ask me anything sort of thing, and just sort of have a good time there. It should be a lot of fun. Hope you guys are having a good Labor Day weekend as well. As we go through this draft, I'll sort of go through any news and updates that go in line with where these players are being drafted, and sort of give you guys my opinions and all that, and sort of keep you guys engaged and sort of make sure that you guys are as up to date as possible. Again, I forgot to mute that, so my bad. That'll be gone. Won't make you guys sit here and through that. So normally for me at pick 8, my big hope has been to get Bijan, or at pick 9. I've loved getting Bijan at pick 9. It's something that happens pretty often on the ESPN platform, but it's probably not going to be something that happens very much for you guys at pick 9 anymore now that we've seen Cooper Kupp fall down in his ADP. It makes a lot of sense seeing Cooper Kupp fall. It seems very unlikely that he's going to be ready for week 1. I personally would expect Cooper Kupp to miss, at least 3 to 4 weeks at the start of the season. I honestly wouldn't be all that surprised to see him go on PUP. Just sort of give him as much time as he needs to come back and be 100% when he's back, because that's what they're going to want to do. They're not going to want to rush Kupp back when he's not healthy. So I'm worried about Cooper Kupp quite a bit. I personally think he's like an end of round 2 pick. I think I'd much rather have guys like Chris Olave, Jalen Waddle, Amon-Ra Wilson, CD, Devontae Adams. Just a lot of guys that are going way ahead of him or way after him that I'd rather have just because they're way safer, and I can't find myself really ponying up and drafting Cooper Kupp at his current price tag. But as we've seen this draft start out with CMC, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill. It's pretty chalk. The next 2 picks are pretty much always Eckler and Kelsey. So those first 6 picks are pretty much guaranteed at this point. We know what those first 6 are going to be in whatever order you really want to draft them in. But at pick 7 is where there starts to be a little bit of variability. I think that's generally where I personally would be starting to take Bijan Robinson. He'd be the next best player on my board. In general, what I find myself doing at like the end of round 1 in a spot like this, especially in a 10-team league, I find myself just taking Nick Chubb here. I think there's plenty of wide receivers or later on, like in rounds 2 and 3, that I find myself taking those guys, and I still end up liking my roster quite a bit, and it just generally makes the most sense for me to go about it that way. Taking a receiver here feels like a reach. I don't want to be taking Devontae Adams or Stephon Diggs at this point, so we'll see. Hopefully Bijan doesn't go here, because I'd love to start my draft Bijan Chubb, and then I can just go running back, or receivers the entire rest of the draft. So that's awesome. We got Bijan Robinson at pick 9 here. I wouldn't count on that. Don't go into your draft expecting that. Maybe you're happy to take Tony Pollard, take Saquon, take Nick Chubb there as well. So I generally would take the best running back on the board there, especially if you see a guy like Stephon Diggs go right after you or right before you. I don't want to be reaching into that tier like CeeDee Lamb, those other wide receivers at this point in the round 1. So we saw Saquon go at pick 10. Really hoping Nick Chubb stays on the board here. Cooper Kupp at pick 11. That's not all that shocking. It's earlier than I'd be willing to take him, but it's not unreasonable. So now I'll take Nick Chubb here. And now for pretty much the entire rest of the draft, we can focus on the wide receiver and quarterback and tight end positions. There's really no need for us to be too worried about Nick or any of our running backs going forward. At the flex spot, especially in a full PPR league, you're going to find that you're probably just playing wide receivers in that position anyway. And obviously you want to have a 3rd and a 4th running back on your roster, but I wouldn't end up with more than 4 running backs on a roster where you start running back. You want to take as many shots at the wide receiver position as possible there, because you're going to be obviously heaviest in terms of your overall point production out of the running back position. Those 2 running backs are guys that, if they go down and your team doesn't have them, you're probably screwed anyway for a good chunk of time. So don't put yourself in a spot where you're sort of trying to cover your bases there, because we don't want to draft scared. We're drafting to win our leagues, and if you make picks here that are supposed to help you in the case of an injury, in the case of one of these guys not panning out, you're probably not winning your league if these guys get hurt or don't pan out anyway. So I don't find myself really trying to worry too much about a scenario where these guys either bust or don't play very many games. So we'll be looking wide receiver here. I would be willing to take any one of the 3 quarterbacks in round 3 here as well if they make it to us, and Mark Andrews is someone I'd look at. It's kind of bold going like that, but a world that could exist here, it would be where I go one of these top-tier quarterbacks and then go Mark Andrews in round 4. On ESPN especially, we do see Mark Andrews make it into the early part of round 4 in 10-team leagues. He tends to be going way later than I would recommend drafting him. I think he's a perfectly fine early round 3 pick. So no problem taking him there. But so I know we wouldn't have a wide receiver in this scenario if we did that. But in 10-team leagues, I do lean a little bit more heavily towards drafting those top tier quarterbacks and top tier tight ends because they just offer such a positional advantage. And there's going to be plenty of wide receivers later on. They're going to let you build out a quality roster. Right now, it looks like just Josh Allen's left at the quarterback spot. If he makes it to me, I will be taking him. Otherwise, we're probably looking at Mark Andrews. There we go. Josh Allen just went. Actually, I think we're going to be looking at Devonta Smith here. He's my highest ranked wide receiver on the board. I think I'm not really worried about Mark Andrews going in the next 2 picks. It's a little scary. I'd be sad if that happened, but we're going to go Devonta Smith here. Gives us a really solid wide receiver 1, a guy that I'm happy with, and then getting Mark Andrews is going to be really nice as long as he doesn't go in these next 2 picks. On the off chance that Mark Andrews does get drafted with one of these next 2 picks, I'm probably looking at Calvin Ridley or Keenan Allen. Like I said, I could consider taking a running back. Ramondre Stevenson is someone that I would look at, but not someone that I'm super excited about. And there we go. So now we're going to take Mark Andrews here. Love that start. We've got 2 stud running backs, a top 2 tight end, and another receiver that I've got in like my fringe top 12 right now. Love all those guys. It's a really good start. I think we're in a really good spot here. That is something I'll note too. If you're in a 10-team league, it's pretty hard to end up not liking your team after you draft it. Everyone's going to have really good players, and that's why I find that it makes a lot more sense to target those high-end quarterbacks, those high-end tight ends in 10-team leagues, because there are a ton of running backs, a ton of receivers, and enough that you could all have good players at each of those positions in 10-team and smaller leagues. So in leagues that are that small, you really do want to be hammering out those tight ends, those quarterbacks, because those are the positions that there aren't 10 great ones of. Quarterback is about 8, so maybe 7 if you want to look at it like that. So you want to make sure you get a top 7 quarterback in 10-team leagues. Then I really would prioritize getting a top 2, top 3 tight end. I would basically say Kelsey, Andrews, Hawkinson, Waller, Goddard. It's really important to me, I guess, that I get one of those 5 tight ends, then one of those 7 top tier tight quarterbacks, just because I don't want to be at a spot where I feel like I'm at a positional disadvantage when there's plenty of players at wide receiver, at the running back positions, that I won't feel like I'm down that bad at those other spots if I have to wait a little bit on those. So we're starting to see some running backs come off the board, or quarterbacks come off the board. We just saw Lamar and Joe Burrow go. Looking at the quarterback spot is something I'd love to be doing here with my next pick. I'd love it if I can get Justin Herbert with this next spot. If I can't, it's not something I'm going to force. Justin Fields isn't someone that I find myself drafting very often. I'm just worried in general about the ceiling for him. I don't see a world where he really finds that 3,000 passing yard capability out of him. And obviously he could rush for over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns, and he'll break fantasy. But it's just someone that I'm a little bit concerned about drafting, not a guy that I target very often. So hopefully Herbert makes it to me here. If that's the case, then Herbert's absolutely coming onto my roster. Otherwise, we're probably looking at wide receiver here. Well, good. We didn't have to make a decision there. Justin Herbert's the guy. Now we're going to start looking at wide receiver, though. We do need to get a couple other guys. I love the stat getting Mike Williams as an option in there. I like Tyler Lockett, Ayuk. Judy's iffy. Because he'd be my wide receiver, too, I don't want to be taking Jerry Jeudy just because it's a scary proposition to need him on your roster. Deontay Johnson's a perfectly fine guy in PPR as well. But I'd be leaning Mike Williams here as long as he's there, and that's who we're going to take. He's a really solid wide receiver, too. A guy that I love stacking with Justin Herbert. That's going to give my team a ton of weekly upside. And like I said, because we're in a 10-team league, there are going to be plenty of wide receivers later on that I can draft that are safer. And then if something happens to Mike Williams from a health standpoint, or if he ends up busting, somehow losing the job to Quentin Johnston, then there's going to be enough wide receivers later that I'll be okay at that position. And again, now we've got a spot where, okay, we've got our quarterback and our tight end. We really don't need to look at those positions the entire rest of the draft, especially in a 10-team league with benches of only 7, smaller starting lineups here. I would, under no circumstances, draft 2 tight ends or 2 quarterbacks in a spot like that. It's just not a useful way to utilize your bench spots when you have a quarterback and a tight end that you're basically betting on being starters for you every single week. You can stream the position on their bye week, and otherwise just sort of ignore the position. At running back, we'll take a look at it just in case there's a serious value that falls to us, but it's not something that I would love to do. Jonathan Taylor is an interesting thought at this point, being drafted at like the end of round 5, early round 6. It's a guy that I'm willing to look at if I already have 2 running backs. I don't want to be counting on him, and I wouldn't be at this point. So Jonathan Taylor is someone that I would consider once we get into like the round 8 spot. I don't think he'll make it to us there, but if he does slide, Jonathan Taylor is the kind of guy that I'm willing to draft if I have 2 wide receiver or 2 running backs already that I'm happy with. Now that we've got two wide receivers as well, we could start looking at Judy. Obviously, I like Lockett. You guys know I like Jahan Dotson quite a bit. Obviously, Addison, Zay Flowers, Gabe Davis are all guys that I've been drafting quite a bit of. I think Cortland Sutton's a perfectly good draft pick as well right now. I like Christian Kirk in PPR formats. I like this middle tier of wide receiver a lot. I tend to find myself drafting a lot of these guys in a lot of my leagues. These are guys that I'm pretty comfortable with coming into the season and guys that I think you can start pretty early on and are going to have really good years. So let's just take another look at the running backs. Yeah, if Jonathan Taylor makes it to us, I won't take him here with my round 7 pick, but if he makes it to us in round 8 after we get our next wide receiver, I would consider it. If he's your first player on the bench, it's kind of really nice. You can throw him onto your IR as well, be a guy that, you can right away just pick up a new player. There's going to be decent waiver wire assets in a 10-team league like this, and you want to swing for upside, especially in 10-team leagues. You want some true difference makers, so getting Jonathan Taylor this late would be something that I'm okay doing. I won't do it with this pick, though. Go to wide receiver, and I'm going to take Tyler Lockett. He's a guy that I think has just a really solid season in him, a guy that I like quite a bit, and it really rounds out our starting lineup nicely. We've got 3 wide receivers I'm really comfortable with, a quarterback and a tight end I love, and then 2 really great running backs, guys that should have really good seasons here. And now we're here. We saw Jonathan Taylor go here. That's totally okay. I'm looking at the other running back spots. Nobody that I feel like I need to take. Um, Nobody I'm in love with. Dobbins is an option. I think Dobbins has a really good shot to have a good year. And there are actually a lot more wide receivers that I like left. And looking at the running back spot, there really is, just Dobbins, Akers a little bit, and Gibson. So I'm going to take Dobbins here. First player on our bench. That's really nice. We've got one more running back that I'm really confident in. We can play him in the flex if we need to. And a guy that has a lot of upside this year. So I think that was a really good pick here. Still looking around, so probably good at running back. Maybe we go one more over the course of the draft. We could take a guy like Antonio Gibson late or with our next pick and just be done with the running back spot and then just hammer out wide receivers. Because there is a really significant drop off at the running back spot. You run out of players that have real defined roles really quickly. Like after, I guess, P. Ryan, there's nobody on this list that's guaranteed touches. I guess there's Warren. But there's a very significant drop off at the running back position that happens really quick here. There's still a lot of wide receivers that I like left on the board. If Judy makes it back to us, obviously he's an auto pick. I would take Sutton, Dotson, obviously Addison, Zay Flowers are guys I love. I'd love sort of going those guys back to back in rounds 9 and 10. It's a perfect spot to be drafting them. They're all going to have both going to have really great seasons and have a ton of upside. It's the kind of guy I do want to be putting on my roster here, a guy that could actually elevate himself into my starting lineup. And, all these guys could beat out a guy like Lockett or Mike Williams this season. So we want to be shooting for guys that are actually going to crack our starting lineup. At running back, I don't think we're going to be really seeing that here. Khalil Herbert's got a shot to maybe crack our flex. Nobody else here really would aside from like handcuffs. So not something I'm really going to be looking at. We'll probably just be looking at the wide receiver spot. Try to take a couple here, and then maybe we'll get like one more handcuff running back later on. Take a guy like Tyler Algier or Tank Bixby, even a Devon A-Chain could be in consideration. So really hoping Dotson makes it to us here. That's awesome. So we're going to get Dotson, and then I'm going to go Jordan Addison as long as he doesn't get picked with one of these next 2 picks. And I don't think he will. There's plenty of players left. If you're looking at wide receiver, I think that the players that are more obvious to people are guys like JSN and Sky Moore, obviously. They could go MT, looking at the team who's picking after us as well. It's Team Oliver. Oliver's got plenty of wide receivers at this point. He's probably looking at quarterback potentially. He could be taking a guy like Kirk Cousins or Tua here or something. Brian Robinson, that's interesting. I wouldn't have done that if I were him. If I were him, I would be taking a quarterback with this pick, but we'll see what he does here. That being said, we're pretty safe. We're going to get Jordan Addison at this point. Really awesome. We got Addison. He's our guy. We know we love him. He's going to have a really great season, and we've got some nice symmetry there. All 3 of our bench guys have names that start with J, so that's kind of fun. Cool. So now we're going to we get 4 more bench spots. Like I said, I think we're not going to look at the running back or at the quarterback or tight end positions. There's no point there. So we're just going to be looking at running backs and wide receivers. Guys that I'm interested in, I'll start sort of queuing guys. Queuing all the guys that I think have value. Tank Bigsby's going way too late on ESPN. If you're in a deeper draft at all, just target Tank Bigsby in like the round 11, 12 pick. He's going to be a really great draft pick and be a guy that's going to be a flex-worthy asset and a guy that, if one injury happens to Travis Etienne, he's going to have a great season. Looking at wide receiver, we've obviously got these guys queued. Quentin Johnston's great. Elijah Moore has some upside. I don't find myself drafting a ton of him. Bateman's got some upside. Marvin Mims is a guy I've talked about quite a bit. A lot of guys there, but just taking a look. Juju's another guy I could consider, but not someone I'm excited to be drafting, so it's just not really worth it there. At this point, we're looking for guys pretty much upside of the wide receiver position, and that is where it gets a little bit harder. At the end of the draft, guys with true upside of the wide receiver position aren't really as common. The running backs and stuff have upside because it's more likely that an injury happens to a guy ahead of them, and that's where they really just emerge into that truly useful role for you guys. But the wide receivers, they're not. None of these guys are like an injury away. It's going to be something where you're going to be waiting on them either emerging, so you're trying to draft youth guys that maybe are an injury away from being the wide receiver 2 on their team instead of the wide receiver 3, stuff like that. But generally, once you get later in the draft, the guys with true league-winning upside are the guys that are running backs and handcuffs. So we're going to go Gabe Davis here, highest-ranked wide receiver for me, guy that I really like. Still need to get 3 more players. Let's take a look at the running back spot. Mostert's a really great pick here. He's a guy that definitely has upside and could be a guy that, cracks our starting lineup. But I'm worried that, he's probably going to get hurt at some point. I think Devon Achane is the more explosive player at this point in their careers, and I'd rather be taking more of an upside shot. I think Samaje Perine's interesting, a guy that, he is an injury away to Javonte from being a monster this season. But the guy who I really like, the guy who's in a good offense and is an injury away from Kenneth Walker away from being a stud, is actually Zach Charbonnet. He's going to be my pick here. I think Charbonnet is a guy that could legitimately be a top 10 running back if something happened to Kenneth Walker. And we've already seen Kenneth Walker deal with injury throughout the course of his career. Charbonnet's a really great draft pick late in drafts, and I've liked taking him. Would love to get Tank Bigsby and then one other wide receiver here. Looking at the wide receiver position, sort of just going to be looking for upside. So looking at a guy like Mingo, looking at a guy like Van Jefferson. Devontae Parker's interesting. Bateman's interesting. Obviously, Nico Collins, Elijah Moore have upside. And then we'll be done here. So looking at the running back spot. Obviously Kenneth Gainwell's got a lot of upside as well. Almost forgot about him, but he's a guy that I really do think has a shot to be the starting running back for the Eagles. He's someone that I'm excited about. I do prefer Algier to Tank Bigsby. I want to mention that as well. I know I've talked a lot about Tank Bigsby, but I think Algier is going to be more involved and I think that wants to run the ball a little bit more. And if something were to happen to Bijan, Algier I think would legitimately be a top 10 running back. I think both are really great, but Algier is just got the slight edge for me. So I'll take Algier here, and then we're going to take our wide receiver. Looking at the wide receivers, I think that my highest ranked remaining wide receiver, looking at purely upside here, we want a guy that could legitimately crack our starting lineup and be a really good player. We're probably going to take Marvin Mims here. Marvin Mims is just a guy that I genuinely think has a shot to be the wide receiver 1 or 2 for the Broncos by the end of the season. I really do believe this Broncos offense is going to be good with or without Jerry Jeudy. Russ is going to take a step forward again. It's going to be a really good team, and Mims is a rookie, the kind of guy that we want to take a shot on. And if things don't pan out, he's an easy drop for you guys early on. So Mims will be the pick here, and that'll do it. So, yeah, I won't make you guys sit through the kickers and defenses. I guess I'll do a quick thing. Defenses that I'm looking at early on in the season. The Saints are my favorite defense to be looking at. They have their first 6 weeks of the season are really ideal. They've got really great schedules there, so they're the team that I'd be looking to draft in general if I'm taking a tight end or a defense at the end of the draft, but not something that I really would do until my last pick of the draft. Other defenses that I'm interested in, the Jaguars open week 1 against the Indianapolis Colts. That's really nice. They're going to have a really great week 1 for you guys. The Ravens have a really quality week 1 playing the Houston Texans, and they're normally a good defense as well. So those are my 3 general targets. They've got good starts. Kicker, not really worth paying attention to. Just take the best kicker on the board. Take the best offense. Evan McPherson's a good pick here. He's going to be a guy that's going to score a lot of points because the Bengals are going to score a lot of points. Looking at defense, I'll probably go Ravens here just because they're going to get that Texans squad. And but generally, just look at the opening season schedule for defenses. You're going to be swapping through players all the time, and you don't want to be just spending a premium draft pick on a defense or really even worrying too much about it because it's just not worth your time. So, yeah, with that, we finished up our team here. So I really like how it turned out. Obviously, at the quarterback position, we've got Justin Herbert. At our running back spots, we have Bijan Robinson, Nick Chubb, J.K. Dobbins, Zach Charbonnet, and Tyler Algier. So 3 guys I'm really confident in this season, and 2 just high upside picks. At wide receiver, we've got Devonta Smith, Mike Williams, Tyler Lockett, Jordan Addison, Gabe Davis, and Marvin Mims. So another group of really high-end guys. I think that it's probably the weakest spot on the roster just because behind Devonta Smith, there's no true guarantees there, but a lot of like wide receiver 2 production that I think we can expect, and guys that I think should have really good seasons. And then at the tight end, we've got Mark Andrews, a guy that should be awesome this season. And our kicker and defense are Evan McPherson and the Ravens defense. So overall, I'd probably give this team like an A-. Really did enjoy making this team. It's fun doing all these mock drafts. And this will be the last one of the offseason. Then we're going to get right into regular season content. Just some like programming notes. So once we get into the regular season, I will be just sort of want to give you our breakdown every Tuesday morning. I'll be going over waiver wire players, guys that I think you guys should be targeting on your waiver wire that either had good performances the week before, or guys that maybe they're more likely to be relevant due to an injury ahead of them. On Wednesday morning, I'll be giving you guys my trade video. I'll go over roughly 10 players, could be anywhere from 10 to 20, depending on how much motions there's been that week. But that'll be my trade video. I'll be going over guys that I think are worth buying low on, selling high on. That's generally one of my favorite videos to make every single week. It's a team. Those are guys that generally how I find myself making my teams better throughout the course of the season. I'm a very active trader in all of my leagues. It's a lot of fun. One of my most favorite parts about fantasy as well, and definitely just something that I really hope I can help you guys, bring to your leagues as well. It's a lot of fun. And then on Friday, I will be putting out a video where I'll go over. Actually, let's do it. I'll probably do it Saturday. Saturday is going to be my starts and sits of the week video. I'll be going over players that I think are poised to have really great weeks, and I will also be answering any start-sit questions you have. So it'll be sort of like a mailbag format. That I'll do that Saturday morning. So I'll record that one Friday night. So you'll have between, Tuesday morning. So when that video comes out Tuesday morning, you can comment on that one, or you can comment on the one that comes out Wednesday morning. Make sure you guys can comment on those with your start-sit questions. I'll answer them, as many of them as I can, on Saturdays. And then we might sprinkle in like a betting video, a DFS video in there as well. So there'll be 3 guaranteed videos every single week, and then we'll have an extra 1 or 2 maybe sprinkled in here and there. And might do a couple live streams early Sunday mornings and stuff too, just sort of go over last-minute start-sit questions. So that's just a bit of a programming note. Next on Monday, we'll have another video that comes out, and then there will also be a live stream Monday night, where, like I said earlier, we'll be going over we'll be live streaming the Subscriber League fantasy draft, so that should be a lot of fun. A lot of fun having our first ever live stream on the channel, and really excited about how things are going. It's been a lot of fun, and we got football coming up here soon. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching the video. If it's your first time here, please do subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. Like I said, there will be videos coming out every single day throughout the course of the rest of the off-season, which is really short here, and then we're going to have several more videos coming out every single week throughout the entire course of the season. Be here all year to help you guys win your leagues, and I really hope I can help you do that. So it's been a lot of fun. If you guys like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. It really helps with the algorithm, helps me know that I'm doing a good job, and helps me know that you guys want to keep seeing more content like this. So yeah, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, check out these other videos here if you haven't. If you want more content, please feel free to follow me on Twitter @RealSteelFFB. I'll be more active on there as the season goes on. Thanks. Catch you later.